not the easiest ride, but well, we made it to the heart of Yiwu. This is nannuoshan and Gabriele. We left off this morning from Jinghong. The road was quite nice at the beginning and it was also dry, and then as we approached the mountains it started raining. The road became pretty bad, and after we passed the Yiwu village and just entered Mansa, the Mansa region, which is a pretty large area just north of the Yiwu village, we got a flat tire. So we had to stop, had to wait until it was repaired, and then we could continue the journey. And after a few turns, we are actually here in another village. It is called Pashe. It is not easy to find on the map because the locals call it this way, but it is not yet clear to me if it is really the official name. As a matter of fact, it is in the Manla area, which is also in Mansa. Now, where we are going here? We are here because this is kind of like the base camp to go to Yixing, which is a pretty famous tea gardens area with a lot of Gushu. We cannot go there today, so we are just relaxing. Had really good food with fresh bamboo, deep in a tofu sauce, some baicha, and some baijiu. I drank a little bit too much of it, so I'm mixing up a little bit of things here. That's a pretty strong alcohol made here by the owners of this place. And also we had some Gushu tea along with the meal. Now, what can we do? We will just drink some tea, wait that the rain is over, if that will ever happen, or maybe we will have to wait until tomorrow to further deepen into the forest and explore the area. The rain stopped, so we went for a hike up the mountain to see the tea gardens in Yixing. As my first impression, it feels wilder than Bulanshan, than the western part of Xishuangbanna. Not sure if it's just my impression, maybe because of the rain, but here it feels like I am in a jungle. It reminds me a long hike I made some years ago in Borneo. On the way we saw some banana trees, but also some tea trees, pretty big trees, different shape than those we saw in the southwest of Xishuangbanna. Here they seem to be a little bit more slender and taller, like developing more into the height than into the wide. Sometimes you see isolated trees like this one here. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer. It's pretty hard into the forest here. This is just, who knows, maybe a tree that grew there on its own from seeds. Maybe it was planted many years ago, but kind of a little bit strange because there is just a single tree. Here starts the former national forest. There is here this sign that says that from here on there is the national forest, and it is a preserved area that have to be protected and cannot be exploited if you want. In Chinese that's Guoyolin, and all this area that once was under the state ownership now is subdivided between different farmers here,
and is a region where you can find Gushu trees. On the other side of the road there is a tea garden. It's a little bit difficult to see, but it's here. Those looks to me like chow mu, so not super old trees, but certainly trees and not bushes. It is the 22nd of May and these trees haven't been shooting new buds for the whole spring. They're starting just now because the spring has been too dry, so they're receiving the first rain now. Just wonderful, a huge stream of water down the valley that you can hear in the distance. All the fog climbing up to the clouds. And this is still a road that actually one could drive with a 4x4. I wonder how wild it gets when the road narrows and only motorbikes or even just only by foot. Here it is definitely not possible to drive a car and not even a motorbike. Here the trees starts to be a little bit older and larger. The stem is not as thick as we have seen in the past days in Bulanshan. As said, it is a different type of tree. Although some of them, like this one here, is about I don't know, 4 inches, 10 centimeters, even more. Up there is one other one, also a little bit larger. Also the yield of these trees is not very large. You see that there are really not a lot of leaves on the branches. Also here you see that although the stem is not very large, this tree is still a Gushu. Actually it is estimated to be about 300 years old, and you see how far it goes up in the air. It is about 6 meters tall, I would say. I climbed up here to see this huge tree. They're saying it's very rare to see in Yiwu a trunk of this size, and it is estimated to be in the direction more, let's say, of the 1,000 years rather than a few hundred years. Benjamin, take care of not slipping.
Yeah, it's so steep here. It's really.
You can't really tell, but I mean, yeah, it's really steep.
Like you really have to climb like a monkey with all fours in 4-wheel drive.
4-wheel drive mode. Trying to climb the tree to see the feeling of the pickers when they have to go up here to pick those leaves that you guys drink. Not easy. Not easy.
Where is our monkey? Oh, I lost our monkey.
And I mean, I'm quite high, and I would say I am at least another 4 meters to the top, which I will not go. Coming down.
you enjoy the day today?
Oh, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
But I never expected that we would have to walk like such a long way in order to reach the old ancient tea forests.
Yeah. Also because they said it is just a 20 minutes walk, and then it turned out to be 2 hours.
Yeah.
One way.
Yeah.
Well, then I would say let's sleep.
Quite tired.
Quite tired. Let's get some energy for tomorrow.
Well, who knows what awaits us.
Good night.
Good night.
Good morning. In Yiwu there are two main roads that lead to the tea fields. There is one that goes from south to north. This is the one we took yesterday to go to Ishanmo. These roads actually continues after Ishanmo a little bit farther up north until Tianmenshan, and then there is actually the end of the Yiwu area. If you go back south until you reach more or less Yiwu, from there is another road that goes east. When you just start off into the road, after a few kilometers there is the village or small cities of Yiwu. This is where we slept tonight. And then if you continue all the way to the east, you reach the city of the village, let's say, of Guafenjai. Now this is the road that we took this morning, and we are visiting here Luoshuidong. I'm walking just behind Benjamin because we are visiting an old tea tree that has already died. It is 800 years old, but it is no more harvested. Interesting for me was to see how the size of the tree, the width, was similar to the ancient Gushu that we saw yesterday in the forest, showing that that tree is indeed in the direction of 1,000 years old. These trees develop, as said, more in the height than in the width, and this is because they are forest trees, so they fight with the other plant to reach higher heights and get enough light, while the trees that we have seen in the southwest of Sichuanbana in Bulangshan, they were not always in the forest. Actually, they had more open air and receive anyway more light, so maybe over the centuries those trees have been evolved, developing more in the width. So this garden here, that it is a Gushu garden, still shows relatively small plants, although actually they are fairly old, just because they grow really slow. I have to correct myself, the old dyed tea tree that we saw before is actually in Mahei, and now we are walking into a garden in Luoshuidong. The two villages are one next to each other, and on one side of the road is Mahei, on the other side of the road is Luoshuidong, so initially I mixed them up. These wood branches that you see here on the tree, also one on this one, are actually used by the pickers to climb up the tree or to sit on those to facilitate the picking. And they were also up on the ancient tea tree that I climbed yesterday. Without those, it would have been pretty hard to reach that height. In Yiwu, one could distinguish between two different types of tea gardens, Chaiyuan in Chinese. This one here, one would say, is just a normal Gushu Chaiyuan, Gushu tea garden. It is next to the village, close to the road. If the tea garden is deep into the forest, then it is called a Senlin Chaiyuan, which means something like ancient forest tea garden. Or if it is in a national forest, like the one we've been yesterday, Guoyolin Chaiyuan. And of course you add the Gushu every time that the tea garden is made of ancient trees, like in this one here. I am reaching here the king tree, the Chawan Shu of Mahei. It's a little bit difficult to show that to the camera because it's surrounded by other plant, but let's see it from this perspective here. It goes really up high to the sky. Large old trees like this one, which is about 800 years old, are selling for a very high price, way higher than Laobanjian Gushu. It is referred to as the king tree of Mahei, just because Mahei is more famous than Luoshuidong, and consequently, since this is a little bit a border area between the two villages, you just pick up the name that is more convenient for selling your product. At the end, it's just two mountain villages, one next to each other. Where do you really draw the line? We arrived, whoa, in Luoshuidong. We had some tea, some fresh tea, then a beautiful lunch just to fill up the belly, ready for the ride. And after having reached Guafenjai, we took a side road and drove actually into the forest for quite a bit, I would say 20 minutes, until we reach here a beautiful tea garden into the forest. Senlin Chaiyuan, a rainforest tea garden. The trees here have been planted by the grandparents of our contact. He's just a little bit younger than I, so you can do the math. And these are xiaoshu, small trees, so they are not yet considered gushu according to them, just because they have between 30 and 80 years of age. depending on when exactly they have been planted. Some of the trees are along the walking path here on a flat land and are not too difficult to pick, but there are trees that go all the way up that wall actually, because it's so steep. It looks almost vertical from here. And of course the work to be done to harvest those trees is at a different level. I experienced that yesterday myself, and I can tell it's pretty hard. The family owns here a garden of about 200 mu, which is more or less 300 by 300 meters. Down there is a little house where they keep the chicken, and this is the tea factory where they process the leaves from their garden. Here we are extremely close to the border with Laos, extremely close. So now we're just driving over. It was a very short ride actually, 5 minutes, maybe less, I don't know, a kilometer uphill, and here we are, the border with Laos. As you see, there is a massive fence, and this was not here until just a few years ago. Then with COVID and the Chinese being afraid of Laos people coming over and contaminating everyone, they just raised this fence here. Before it was very easy to just going over. Now the locals have found an alternative to that. As you can see here, it's still not very difficult, but we don't want to go over to find out that on the other side there are some Laos army guide with a gun pointed towards our heads. So I think we will stay here in China safe. We are at the end of our 2-day Yixing trip. It was awesome. We had the possibility to see different cultivation area and also different types of tea gardens. Now we are on the way down the mountains, going back to Jinghong. We will have a good but short rest, and then today we will head up to a new place.